An economic miracle is taking place in the United States, and the only thing that can stop it are foolish wars, politics, or ridiculous partisan investigations. If there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, a lot of things under Trump don't work at all. I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And this is NewsRap, live at 5. All right. Well,
The speech was bad enough when I had to hear it the first time. Now I had to hear it 3 times a day.
Well, you didn't have to hear a whole hour and 22 minutes
Yeah,
of it
because I didn't
today,
listen to
though.
it the first time.
Yeah. Oh, I listened to it. The problem was it was meaningless.
I love myself way too much to torture myself like that.
Oh, I watched the whole thing.
Nah, I'm not doing that to myself.
And I watched Stacey Abrams. Did you watch Stacey?
I did watch Stacey Abrams.
And how'd you like Stacey?
I thought she did good. You know, I found this text number.
Yeah.
And you text this code, and then they would text back and say, Trump is off the air. Tune in now to hear Stacey Abrams. So I got a text, and I just turned the TV on.
No, I watched it, and you know something. He talked about the opioid crisis, and he talked about helping prescription drugs. Except he only said only mentioned disclosure,
Yeah.
which that's not going to solve the problem. And he mentioned some other things that the AIDS epidemic. I mean, he mentioned some things that Democrats would love, and the problem was that it was meaningless because he started with a blackmail note.
Yeah.
And so basically the theory that I got from it, and that's why we wanted to run that initial clip, because that was the most important and frankly the only important line in the speech. Because what he basically said is, if you stop investigating me, we can do some great things.
It'll be Pollyannic.
Right. But if you don't stop investigating me, there'll be war. That was literally the word he used. I don't think he meant a shooting war. I think he meant a war with Congress. He said, we can either have peace, meaning between us, we can either have peace and legislation, and everyone wants legislation, that's what Congress is there for, or we can have war and investigation.
And
we can't have both.
And then Adam Schiff showed him what war and investigation looks like.
And then he showed him what it was. So the rest of the speech didn't mean anything because, you can say, I'm going to give you all these goodies, but what you have to do, right, is stop investigating me. And what that means, by the way, folks, to be very basic about it, is that he's saying they can do all kinds of great things if Congress gives up its constitutional responsibility to investigate possible wrongdoing.
If they take a step back and they're no longer a co-equal form of government, he's saying that it will go fine.
Yeah.
My issue is, with where we are now as a country, I am not trying to hear him say the State of the Union is strong or fine or any of that. And I wouldn't want to hear any president say that right now. We are divided.
We are.
And you know what? We need to deal with those divisions, but we are not going to deal with those divisions saying, let's not investigate this.
That's right.
We're not going to deal with those divisions by saying, leave me alone, put me up a step higher, and I can fix it for everybody. The idea that I alone can fix it, and I'm smarter than the generals, and I'm the only one who can beat ISIS, and I'm the only one who can fix the economy, and I'm the only one who can drive the space shuttle. That's how the hell we got here in the first place.
That's right.
So, that's it.
No, that's right. And the fact is that the investigation that he doesn't want to see happen started today.
Oh, yeah.
And they brought Matt Whitaker forward and asked him some tough questions, and then he did something that I'm a little surprised that they didn't kind of remind him that what he was doing had no legal basis. The president can invoke executive privilege. Nixon did it. Obama has done it. Any president
Well, every president's done it.
invoke executive privilege. Someone under the president does not invoke executive privilege.
Right.
So you notice that he never said, I invoke executive privilege. We're talking about Matt Whitaker, the acting attorney general who was brought before the House Oversight Committee today. He never said, I invoke executive privilege, because legally he can't. So he said this kind of cockamamie thing, which was, I won't answer these questions because the president might invoke executive privilege.
Right.
Well, he had no ability to do that. He had no right to do that. And I'm a little surprised that at that point, Nadler didn't say, if you don't answer these questions, you are in contempt of Congress.
And see, they should have.
Or we'll take a pause. Let's call the White House.
Exactly. Figure this out.
And if the president wants to invoke executive privilege,
Give him an
then let
opportunity
him
to do so.
But he's been doing this with everyone.
Right.
Jeff Sessions has done it.
His kid did it.
They have all done it. There's no legal basis for it. I don't know what the heck his lawyers are telling him, but there is no legal basis for it. And it is very, very aggravating. Because if he wants to invoke executive privilege, invoke it. Let's get it to court. Let's have the fight.
That's right. That's right. So, Barry, how can the people get in on this conversation?
How can the people get in on this?
Let's talk about the people.
You know how to get in on this conversation already. You just head over to Facebook, to the Pasadena Media page on Facebook, and you can also go to Instagram, I think.
Yep.
And jump on and
we want to hear from
join
you.
the conversation live. And also, we're streaming, as you know, on the Arroyo channel live. We do that every week, except we didn't do it last week.
We
were
weren't
down
here.
last
We weren't
week.
here.
We weren't here. But we try, and we'll be here every week whenever we can be. So we're on the Arroyo channel, Charter Channel 32. We call it Charter or Spectrum? I don't know anymore.
It's both.
It's
a little
both.
of each.
Okay, Charter Spectrum Channel 32 or AT&T Channel 99. And you can follow us, you can like us, you can share us, and you can subscribe and do all of those great things. We even have a comment right away
right.
from Behind the Curtains. Do we know who that is?
I don't know, but I don't want to go behind the curtains and find out. I always get wary of that kind of thing.
Behind the Curtains. And
Trump.
we can only see part of it right now, guys. Trump makes it seem like, and then we can't read the rest.
Like he's helping African American people by freeing prisoners
You're just gonna fill in the blanks.
and
We're gonna
inviting
play
them
Mad
to the state
Libs.
of.
What is this?
and well, I'm guessing on it.
No, there it is. So Trump makes it seem like he's, well, you got that part.
Helping
African
Got it right.
Americans, American people by
Freeing prisoners.
I guess it is freeing prisoners, yes, and inviting them to the State of the Union address.
Wow.
Well, he also said that we had the lowest minority unemployment.
But you know, the African American
And that's
numbers.
probably accurate because we have a very, very good labor market right
But
now.
the African American unemployment number is slowly starting to tick up again.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's why he doesn't tout it anymore. So it is slowly starting to tick up.
So I want to talk a little bit
Go.
about Virginia. What
Do you see what
is
my body
happening?
language? Did you see my
What-
body
yeah,
language?
I know. You don't want to touch this thing.
No, I want to touch this thing.
Oh, okay.
I
go
want
for
to
it.
touch this thing a lot.
Go for it.
Racist ass rednecks down in Virginia doing blackface, wearing sheets over their heads, and you have a bunch of people, this is the dumbest part of it all, going, well, which one was he? Talking about the governor. Which one is he in the picture?
Yeah.
What the hell different does it make? He's both. He's a racist.
Yeah. And that would be fine. That would be clear as
And
day.
I know there's other stuff
that
going on
he
with other
should
people.
resign.
He's got to get out of there.
Then what?
Well, then we have to deal with the next guy and the rape allegations against him.
Yeah, don't we though?
But this is the point. Democrats aren't made, they're not untouchable. If this guy is a racist, the Democratic Party needs to disavow this guy, and this guy's got to get out of there.
Okay.
If the next guy is a rapist,
Okay.
then the party has to disavow this guy, and he has to go too.
Okay, so the three guys go,
Yeah.
and you're perfectly happy with a conservative Virginia governor.
No, but I'm not happy with the racist Democratic one either.
I hear that.
Okay? Look, the conservative guy, I probably know that he's put on blackface before. Mm-hmm. I don't have time for a guy pretending he didn't when I know he did. That's an issue for me.
Well, I agree with that, and I
Stand for who
think
you are.
Northam. I mean, the fact that Northam initially said, "I apologize,"
Because of what I
and
did
he
in my-
also used interesting language because he said something like, well, "Whoever I hurt then and now."
Yeah.
So he admitted that he
Right.
did it, and then turned around and said, "No, I didn't." So then everyone thought, okay, Justin Fairfax, yay, right?
And then-
Second black Virginia governor. Pow, right? So then Herring, right?
Yeah, but the thing, well,
Pow.
let's go back.
So then the question is, at what point do we allow an apology, or are we simply going to say, okay, if the consequence is we'll have a conservative governor and,
We're not there
and
yet.
give up our foothold
We're not
as
there
a
yet.
Democratic Party,
We're not there yet.
what are we going to do?
We're not there yet. The allegations against the lieutenant governor need to be heard, and he needs to be given a chance to defend himself.
Okay. But you want Northam to go in the meantime? So
That-
you want those allegations against the sitting governor?
Northam has admitted to it.
And Herring said they dressed up like rappers that they listened to.
Well, you know what?
So what, I mean, at some point, right, it's all wrong. There's no question
Get 'em out.
about that. Okay.
Get him out. And then,
But understand that the consequence may well be that we lose Virginia.
Okay.
And we may lose Virginia in 2020 and give the governorship to a Republican.
Then you know what?
And make it very
Then you know what?
hard.
We have
make
to-
it very hard for the Democrats to win the state.
You know what?
I'm just saying
There's not a
there's a
Demo-
bigger picture here.
there's not a Democrat leading the state right now, Barry. See, once I see that, you're not a Democrat anymore. You're not a Republican.
Okay, I can't go there.
Well,
because
hang on. I gave
there's
you a chance to
difference,
talk.
But
Let-
there's a
let me talk.
difference between
Let me
Democratic
talk.
policies and Republican policies.
But there's not a difference between racism no matter who's doing it. I don't give a damn if he's a Democratic or Republican. I give a damn he's a racist. Get his ass out, on to the next guy. We deal with the next guy. We have a fair election, and we try to win the seat back. But I'm not going to put up with a guy in blackface or a guy with a sheet on his head so I can say there's a Democrat in office.
I agree about Northam. I'm with you on Northam.
So that's-
I don't know if I'm with you on Herring.
I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm just at the governor.
All right,
Get
but-
rid of him.
yeah,
and
I'd
then we
like
can
the
have-
governor to go, 'cause he
then we
lied.
can have some discussions
Yeah.
after that.
No, I agree with that.
That's all I'm saying.
I'm with you on that.
All right.
All right.
I thought we were going to have to go outside, man. I was going to have to bring you over to my position for a second.
Let's look at what's happening locally
That's what was about to happen
before we
local.
get into a lot of trouble. Let's see what's happening locally.
Pasadena Police Chief John Perez and City Manager Steve Marmel sat down for a moderated community discussion at the Alkebulan Multicultural Center Thursday, February 7th, for an ongoing discussion about the relationship between the police and the communities of Northwest Pasadena.
He's made a commitment to bring his people here. He's done that. He wants to do more of that. But I would challenge all of you a little bit to be welcoming when they come.
When you understand the angst that people in the community have, it's going to show up this way. And
Right.
so, to Jasmine's point, if their feelings are going to be hurt, they don't need to be police officers.
I'd rather sit down with the community and say, how do we talk about the data? How do we talk about what crime is really happening? About what's the percentage of crime being reported? Who are we stopping? Why are we stopping over here and maybe not over there? There's so many discussion points to help officers understand all this.
If there is to be trust between law enforcement and the community, it is clear that these conversations need to take place, no matter how difficult they may be.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we had a special guest, Dr. Peter Dreyer from Occidental College, who talked about a couple of things. He talked about his report, which was A Tale of Two Cities, two Pasadena cities, and income inequality. But he also talked about his major campaign that he was involved in to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour in the city of Pasadena. And we thought it would be really cool to hear another perspective, perhaps a different perspective. I'm going to assume it is. And I can't think of anyone better to do it than our guest today, who's a 37-year resident of Pasadena, active in city politics, former commissioner, the whole ball of wax, a local businessman who will be affected by an increase in the minimum wage and can talk very, very effectively about how it will affect business people in this city, so that we get to hear a couple of different sides. And so I'm very pleased to introduce on NewsRap, Robin Salzer. Robin, welcome.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm happy to be here.
Great.
I'm actually surprised you stuck around after that almost brawl you just saw.
Well,
Between us.
it's the
People don't know you were sitting here the whole time
Yeah,
watching
right.
that while we were going back
But
and forth.
we agreed at
Yeah,
the end.
we agreed
at the
we're
end.
fine.
We usually do.
So let me start here. What Peter Dreyer wants is very, very clear. He wants the city manager to make an amendment to the current ordinance, which would allow the minimum wage to go to $14.25 on July 1st this year, and then $15, excuse me, in 2020. What is it that you're asking for?
First of all, I respect all the passion that Peter has and my good friends like Ed Washatka and Pop. But what we are asking as small business people is to go on the state line, the state timeline. The $15 an hour on the state line will be an 18-month gap.
So what's the state's minimum wage right now?
State's minimum wage right now is $12 an hour, and we in Pasadena now are $13.25.
So the state goes to $15 in 2022, am I correct?
Yes, correct.
So that means that for 2 years, while the state catches up to where Pasadena is now,
Yes,
there would be a freeze on minimum wage increases.
correct.
Are you taking money out of people's pockets?
No, I would look at it this way: we're saving jobs, and this is all about the respect and dignity of the employees that we have now. I mean, it's a business decision. I mean, when costs go up, you have to raise your prices. That's number one. That's the first thing you do is you raise your prices. But it comes to a point you can only raise your prices so much. What's the next thing you do? You look at your business template and you cut costs. What's the first thing you do is you look at labor, and that's heart-wrenching. I mean, you have, in my situation, I have staff that's been with me, I have a manager that's been with me 34 years. I haven't hired a server in 12 years.
How many employees do you have, Robin?
I had 30 employees, I now have 21. And I made that adjustment because out of necessity, I had to.
Did you lay them off or did they leave?
They left. I didn't have the heart to lay anybody off, but I had to cut my staff. So through attrition, as people would leave, we didn't rehire. We didn't hire other people. And what I had to do was cut hours. And so if somebody was working 35 hours, they're now working 30 hours. But I think more impactfully for me is I took a restaurant that was 7 days a week, and now I'm open 3 days a week. I had to cut out 300 hours a week. And the bottom line is I have to protect and sustain my business to protect my staff. My staff is my family. And this story is repeated probably by almost every restaurant and small business in Pasadena.
So you said, I just want to kind of reiterate. So you said we're at $13.25 now?
Yes.
And we would go to 15
Next year, next July 1st.
next year, right?
Yes.
And on the state schedule, we'd stay at $13.25?
I believe we would stay at $13.25, and on January 1st of 2022, it'd go to 15.
Right. Now, the only obvious thing that comes to my mind is that $15 in 2022 is likely to be worth less than $15 in 2020, right?
Well,
because inflation has to erode some of that, and inflation is moving upward right now. Because, I mean, at least according to the Fed,
But I'm not looking at it that way.
Upward.
I'm looking at the hours that my staff are working. I'm not looking at the $15. Nobody in my restaurant makes minimum wage except tipped employees. In fact, the Pasadena minimum wage ordinance says that if you have 26 or more employees, you pay $13.25 an hour. If you have 25 or less, I believe it's $12 an hour. I have 21 employees. They all make the higher tier because, again, out of respect and dignity for my staff. But again, you can only raise prices so much. You can only cut back so much. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a service business. And that's why you see kiosks at McDonald's. That's why you see iPads at Olive Garden and Chili's, because they're replacing, these chains can afford to do it. They're replacing the servers and front of the house staff that they have.
But that's coming anyway, isn't it?
It's coming, but again, what's the whole issue? It's not technology, it's not anything other than being on the state timeline.
Not to interrupt, let me back you up for a second. So Pasadena has its own minimum wage ordinance.
Correct.
You want Pasadena to move to the state's minimum wage ordinance.
Correct.
Who else is on the state's ordinance?
Almost every city in California, with the exception of Los Angeles, I believe the county of Los Angeles and their unincorporated areas.
Like Altadena?
Like Altadena, but who's with the state regarding Pasadena? La Cañada, Alhambra, San Gabriel, Arcadia, South Pasadena, Glendale.
So everybody's surrounding us.
Everybody's surrounding us, and it creates an unfair business disadvantage for us as employers, which also necessitates us to look very hard at our operations. And the terrible, byproduct of this whole thing is that we have to protect our employees, and we've had to cut hours and we've had to raise prices.
We got a comment up there.
We've got a few.
You take the first
How
one.
does this work in places it was already implemented in? This, I'm assuming, means
The California
Well, I think
wage.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I thought he was talking maybe about the Los Angeles wage, which is what we would be going to. So.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you can compare. I mean, if if the cities surrounding us are at a different wage than we are, I don't know how you can compare us to the city of Los Angeles, because you have to go through Pasadena and those other cities to get to Los Angeles. I think it's
Well, not really. I mean, you
but I
go
think it's an
down the
unfair
freeway
compar-
and you're in downtown LA.
right. But I mean, when you tout yourself as a city that has more restaurants per capita than any city in the United States, and let's not forget the nonprofits in here too, and you have a city that has more nonprofits than any city in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
When I started here in 1982, the pie wedges of business they were much larger than they are today. We had about 280 some plus restaurants in 1982. Now we're over 550 restaurants. The competition is more, and it's this. You have to have an apples to apples comparison. I mean, and I don't see that out there.
Well, let me ask you this: when you say apples to apples, you've talked about your business, your staff. Well, let's talk family, and you talked about your staff as family.
Right.
I get that. But so then let's talk about family. So the guy who's making $13.25 right now,
Correct.
and is using his money to pay rent to live in Pasadena, and we know $13.25 is not going to pay rent in Pasadena an
Right.
hour. So let's say that.
Right.
That guy now is not going to $14.25 in July 1st. If you get your way, he's staying at $13.25, so you can keep your business. Fine. But isn't he saying that we should go to $14.25 so he could feed his family?
But the byproduct of that might be that if we do go to $14.25 and we have to go through another evaluation of our individual businesses, that $13.25 an hour, now $14.25 an hour employee who works 35 hours a week might be working 30 hours a week. We may have to cut schedules a little
lose
bit
money
back.
on the deal.
So he could lose money there. It's a net loss.
The Lima report, there were two reports that the city of Pasadena received, and one was the Lima report and one was the Reich report. And the Lima report did talk about this possible reduction of hours. But the bottom line of both reports seemed to say that the employment effect, which is usually what we hear, you're going to lose jobs, that the employment effect is either negligible in one case or inconclusive in another case. So, I mean, we keep hearing the argument, but then we keep reading the empirical evidence that suggests that it doesn't have that negative impact on employment. Anecdotally, I'm also hearing from businesses that there's been a reduction in hours. I heard from one business that had 60 employees that they've had to go take a lot of full-time employees and put them on part-time. So there's no question that there's a negative impact on that. I guess I want to ask, and I'm not asking you to solve the problems of the world, Robert, but I guess clearly in this country, in this state, in this city, there is a massive problem of income inequality. It's just really massive. And frankly, $15 an hour isn't going to solve it. What is? I mean, we've got technology changes. Things are getting more automated. The limited service restaurants, for example, are getting more and more automated. What is the answer to this? I mean, are we just going to have a society of haves and have-nots? Is that where we're going?
I'm going to pause you. We're going to take a break.
Okay.
When we come back, Rama's going to answer that question.
Great.
Sure.